Well, hello there, ladies and gents. It is great to see you again, and welcome back to Path to Abundant Living. Ryan Ruff, your moderator, but as always, I've got the guys standing by in Matt Nordman and Scott Morrison of Morrison Nordman Wealth Management. They're going to be jumping aboard here in just a moment. But we've got another great episode teed up for everybody today here on the show, bringing on a special guest from the greater world of education. We've got Dr. Teri Rouse jumping aboard the show with us today. She's an early and behavior interventionist, an autism and reading specialist, an educational coach and consultant. I could go on, but also there's another big part of that. She is an international, multiple best-selling author, really known for kicking chaos to the curb within the greater family unit and helping families work through the challenges of parenting while also educating. So we thought today would be a really interesting conversation to dive into her world, her background, and then, of course, some kind of nuggets that we can maybe take away and implement into our own lives, because let's face it, in the lives of family business owners, as many of you in our audience are, you're not essentially immune, if you will, to the challenges of educating and parenting and building a really cohesive family. So we thought Dr. Teri and her expertise would be just a fantastic guest for everybody out there today. So before we bring Dr. Rouse on today, let's go ahead and say hi to the guys. Matt, Scott, good to see you today. How we doing?
What's a good word today, Ryan?
Nothing much, guys. It's getting cold. It's that time of year, right? We got Thanksgiving as we sit down to record this. We got Thanksgiving kind of around the corner now. But yeah, all going well. Scott, what's up in your world?
I saw some snow and rain mix this morning. Like you said, it was an ugly reminder of what's coming.
I gotta say, Ryan, he's feeling a little better today, but Sunday his team did not do so well. Sunday night, the Lions did not look good. So that was a little rough yesterday.
And having some married into a Philly sports family myself, I can't tell you what was going through our family group chat based on the result of
No, I'm sure they're not. We're just setting them up for the playoffs.
Right.
Giving them that false sense of confidence.
I love it. Well, guys, let's jump to the topic at hand today. We've got Dr. Teri Rouse, Lyon and Wade. We've got a really interesting conversation on tap for everybody today. Let's not wait any longer. Let's bring her on. Dr. Teri, it's great to see you today. Thank you so much for carving some time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with all of you guys. This is going to be fun.
Very excited to have you on, Dr. Ross. It's our pleasure. Great to meet you. You know, looking at your career, you started in special education, behavior intervention, travel the world now, global speaker, founder of the Real Peaceful Parenting Framework, which we'll get into.
Mhm.
How do you make that jump, that leap? Like, tell us your story.
You know, all of this happened by accident, to be quite honest. Even the special education piece of it happened by accident. Um, but I always, when I was in the classroom, I always had those kids. And I just kind of really, stepped into an emotional support class, did all kinds of things there, and then got tired of getting beaten up. And I just also felt like there was something else that I was supposed to do. Now, you have to keep in mind that I have a bonus son with significant behavior challenges. And so in the big bad world of special education, you're often begging for help, and you can't find it. Not the specific help. Like we were on our knees at points, just begging for someone to hear us, to see us, to understand us, just to support us in any way. And there's a financial piece to that too that I'll touch upon a bit later. But the real thing that moved me from the classroom to being a speaker was I knew that there were other people out in the world who were having the same challenges that we were having back in the day. And I wanted to be the solution. I wanted to be the person that I needed when my bonus son was struggling so much. And I found a lot of people that kind of went, "Hey, that's a really good idea. How can we help you do that?" Because I could never have done it by myself. And I'll say Ryan was a huge part of that in so many ways. getting me camera ready, helping me to prepare to speak. But the big thing was making certain that I was able to get the message that you're not alone, that there are solutions, that people do hear you, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You know, there's somebody there that's going to listen. And right now, that person could be me, and I'm here. Call me, Zoom me, FaceTime me, whatever, you know. So and in order to get the message out, I had to be able to stand up in front of people all over the world. I started, right around the corner, but then it really did blossom into all around the world, and that blossomed into other things. So
Which
it's been a wild ride.
I can imagine. We talk about that generational impact and that lasting impact and that butterfly effect,
Mhm.
which for you advocating for your son has just blossomed into this unbelievable, I'm sure, network of helping people who at
Mhm.
times like you are like, where do we go? Where do we turn? What do we do to, oh, we have this unbelievable resource in Dr. Rouse, who then can tap into so many other resources. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I mean, I can't solve everybody's problems, but if I can't, I can hopefully help them find someone who can. And quite honestly, sometimes we don't solve problems. Sometimes we have to work through them and figure out the best way to survive or to deal with or live with the way things are.
Well,
Sometimes that's
Dr.
just
Rouse, you know that obviously we're in the world of financial advising, and one of the things that we kind of hang our hat on is the idea of abundant living. If you go to our website, you would see that signage about abundant living, and it's not necessarily something somebody would look at and think financial right away, because we're talking about clarity and confidence and purpose in your life. And obviously the financial part of it can tie into that, but just kind of curious, how do you define abundance, living through that lens of, family dynamics and communications?
that's a really big question. But I think for me, the fact that I have such a support system for myself. My daughter, our daughter, my husband, our family, we're able to go and do things together, to be together. The friends that I have, the places that I've been, the opportunities that have been afforded to me, whether it's, as an example, I started doing early intervention again. I'm actually back in the field again. To me, that's part of my abundance. That lights me up. That makes me feel full. And that's part of being abundant or having abundance. It's abundance is not just a thing. It's a mindset, and it's a feeling. For me. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but for me it is.
Have you had that feeling, or like, have you had it all along and it just, I don't want to say went dormant, but came back when you got back into the intervention, or kind of
No,
was,
oh no, I always had it. It was just it was kind of a calling. It was kind of like I think I need to get my fingers back into the mush again.
okay.
And I think abundance comes in, and I say comes and goes. It's different at different times. It's fluid. So it's never necessarily always the same for me. Now, financial abundance goes right along with that. If you have financial abundance or security, you're able to do many other things. It provides a lot more freedom, but financial abundance isn't the only thing. It's not the only abundance in my life.
We would agree that we talk about this all the time, that what we do with the wealth management process and all the aspects of it is really important.
Hmm.
But what you talk about in the family dynamics and health and that lasting impact people can have, all of that is again, you can't take it with you, right?
Right.
And what are you going to be remembered for? What are you going to be known for? What's that impact you have in your own family and your generations of your family, as well as that community at large?
Yeah.
Can can you unpack? So we talked about the real peaceful parenting. Can you, what does REAL stand for? And
Okay.
maybe you have a story about where you've kind of applied that framework where you really transformed a family.
Um, the real peaceful parenting framework is based on relationships and resilience, empowerment and engagement, attitude and autonomy, and lifelong learning and living. And each one of those sections can stand independently, but when you put them together, it helps you to create that abundance in your life by for each individual in your family and then as the whole family. It's very holistic. So as an example, one of the very first things that I do with families is I ask them, let's talk about some emotion words, feeling words. Okay. So how are you feeling at this very moment? Are you feeling frustrated or scared or angry or exhilarated? Okay. And the reason that I do that is most times people are feeling a number of different things. The most important thing is to ask your children the same question because we as parents assume that we know the answer, and very often we're wrong. We may not even realize that our children are feeling frustrated or feeling alone or bullied. So I take all of those, I say negative words, and I say, okay, I want you to take them. You've written them down. Let's crinkle them up and just put them to the side because we're not going to throw them away. We're going to recognize them, but we're not going to stay stuck here. Because what is it that you want to feel? I want to feel abundant. I want to feel confident. I want to feel strong. I want to belong. Okay, so those are the words that you are going to concentrate on. And you're going to write them on a sticky pad and you're going to hang them up where you're going to see them. I don't care if it's in the bathroom. I don't care if it's in the car, on the steering wheel of the car. Where you're going to see them. Because two things. If you write it down, you're much more likely to do it. And number two, if you see it repeatedly, it's in your consciousness. It's in the forefront of your brain. So you're paying attention to that. Why do I do that? Because if people don't know where they are, they don't know where they want to go. And so that's the very first thing. So if you're not feeling confident, how can you be resilient? How can you empower your children or yourself? How can you have a positive attitude? How can you truly live your life to the fullest? Like, I kind of think I have this extraordinary life. It's not extraordinary to anybody else but to me. But that's okay. That's what I want.
Dr. Cherry, you mentioned a buzzword that we wanted to hit on today, and that's confidence. There's so often there's the misconception that, passing along wealth or money to your children, your next generation, is going to make life easier. Of course, it will from a tangible perspective, but really, confidence also plays a very large role in the future of your children. So you work with both kids and adults to kind of move past fear through the vehicle of confidence. So for those parents out there that are likely listening to this, potentially, those that work with Scott and Matt, uh, juggling wealth, their family business, their children, and their futures, what say you to those families who are looking to try and transfer confidence in addition to the wealth that will eventually, be their children's one day?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we can do, or one of the biggest things that we can do for our children, is to give them choice, is to give them the opportunity to make decisions, of course, age appropriate. Um, let them fail, be there to support them. Don't, pick them up by the bootstraps, so to speak, but be there to support them so that they can understand the consequences of those decisions. And sometimes, in fact, firmly believe that we should start speaking to our children about money much sooner than most of us do, myself included. I think it's important. And I think we should also, there again, let them have choice and let them have the consequences of said financial decision. Because if they never make a decision when they're younger, what kind of decisions are they going to make when they get older? And little decisions when they're 3 and 4 and 5 and build up the confidence to make good decisions will lead to better decisions when they're teenagers and older.
We completely agree. Yes, you should teach this at a younger age.
Yep.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It is not, but this is one of those things that we talk about, that passing on this information. Again, do you need to get into detail about, oh, should you be long this stock or short this, or like really? No, you don't need to do that. But like you talk about, like making decisions about money and what that means in the short term and long term, and having them see the consequence of their decision of, well, if you do this, here's a couple outcomes that might happen, but having them actually walk through it. Yeah, we love that idea. Love that there's people like you out there saying, hey, go through this. You know, we, my wife and I talk about this all the time. We don't like to see our kids fail, right? They're 26 and 22. We don't like to see it. But we also know, even personally, we all grow from those things, right? What did you learn, right? What did you learn? There is no failure. It's just, what did you learn?
Right.
Well, I think the other thing that you kind of alluded to, but as wealth changes within a family, obviously the dynamics can change as well. What kind of pitfalls can you or opportunities, have you dealt with when it comes to wealth within families?
Um, I don't get too much into the dynamics I think that you're speaking of, but the one thing that I do um truly encourage families to do, it's kind of back to the education, is to, teach your kids um how to use a credit card, the responsibility of a credit card, how to, and I know we do everything online, but how to write a check, how to fill out a deposit slip. Okay. And these are things that I didn't learn until I was in my late teens. In fact, I don't think I learned that stuff until I was going off to college. But I think children need to know that sooner now, because so many times they're picking up that responsibility. And a lot of these kids have money sooner than I know that I had money, for sure. Um, I will say that I was very proud of myself. I did teach my daughter to write a check, to fill out a deposit slip, to pay her credit card bills, and to, do a lot of other things in the realm of money before she went to college. But I don't, still looking back, I probably didn't do it soon enough.
So how do you open up the dialogue about these values, whether it's money or, family values, where it will invite connection as opposed to conflict, right? Because you see it all the time, where you're just telling me what to do, right? Is what a younger person might take it as, where you just want me to be just like you, instead of saying, hey, let's actually have a conversation about this. So how do you open that up? How do you help families facilitate those conversations?
Well, I think, what I do try to do is to make certain that parents understand that their children need to have a voice, and that when your children use their voice, parents need to hear it. Whether they want to hear it or not is a whole different story, right? Nobody wants to hear, Mom, you're a helicopter. That would be me. Um, but nobody wants to hear that kind of stuff. But I think, if the way I see it, the experiences that I've had are when children feel comfortable enough to say to their parents, and their parents actually feel comfortable enough to say, there are some decisions that we will make for you. There are some decisions that we will make together, and there are some decisions we will allow you to make on your own. And these are the possible outcomes and consequences of said decision. And when you can do all of those things, when you just open up the door and simply say, okay, especially when it comes to money, um, as an example, you've got a 16-year-old who wants to buy a car. He wants a Ferrari, okay?
Yeah.
He's going to get the Nova for $600, right? Responsibly, how do you have that conversation? Well, hopes and dreams are over here. We're not chipping in for the car. You have to pay for it on your own. So we'll help you with this, but we're not going to do that. And just being totally, it's almost like having a blank notebook.
So
Did
do
that
you
answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, it totally does. Yeah, no, that's good. So do you see a lot of families like, yes, with younger kids, but have you ever, or how do you have those conversations to open up that dialogue of with parents with adult children, right? Or even
Mm.
adult grandchildren where it's like, hey, we want to help or have more of these conversations, but well, you know, our family doesn't talk about that, right? You've probably seen that. We hear that all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we don't have real conversations. So how do you
Yeah.
get families past that? We'll call it a hurdle, or to have sometimes, you know, authentic conversations.
Right. Again, it's really, and I'm thinking of my own family in particular, because, I'm the only behavior person in the family. Everybody else is not in the field of education at all. And so, for me, it's really sitting down one-on-one. When I have to have a difficult conversation, I don't want a crowd around. Even if there are more than one if there's more than one person involved, I want to talk to one person at a time, because I want to be able to have their full attention and not worry that somebody else is going to be in their ear. That's also important when we're talking with our kids. As parents, sometimes the first thing is mom and dad have to make certain that they are on the same page, because if they're not, all hell is going to break loose. Mom can't say, yes, you can have the Ferrari, and dad say, no, he's getting the Nova.
Right.
Okay. It's got to be, they've got to be on that same page before they even bring it up in conversation. So I tell people to make sure that you have your thoughts, especially when you're going to have a hard talk with somebody. Make sure you have your ideas and thoughts in mind before you open up your mouth. Be very intentional. Be strategic. Make sure you ask the questions that you want the answers to, and make sure that you have the time and safe space to say the things that you need to say.
Dr.
We
Teri,
got
real
I was
quick.
gonna say real quick, it's kind of like it's if you're gonna take off in that plane in that conversation, you better know where you're gonna land.
Exactly.
Don't just kind of wonder, well, where are we gonna land this plane? Yeah,
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead,
fair.
man.
If you guys ever watch the show The Office, Michael Scott has a great line about starting a sentence and not knowing where it's going to go, and he hopes to find it along the way. That's not something you should do within parenting. But I want to build upon your thought about having these conversations one on one, and kind of also tie it back into what you had mentioned earlier when you had said your children should have a voice, because that can be difficult for a child, whether you're 8 years old or you're 16. You're going through high school, and it's the proverbial hardest time of your life. uh do you find that the one-on-one dynamic and environment, if you will, of having those conversations lends itself to the child feeling like they have a bigger voice, because they're not you know opening up their thoughts and feelings to, let's say, the whole family, the whole group, and maybe they start small in the one-on-one, and then when they feel that positive response, then maybe they're more willing to open up to more? I was curious if those two kind of were synonymous with each other or not.
I would say yes. I know that oftentimes parents together want to have the conversation, and sometimes there are just topics that are more or less comfortable when both mom and dad are there. So, I'll give you an example. If I wanted to, when I was a kid and I wanted to talk about school, I didn't talk to my dad. I talked to my mom. But if I wanted to talk about a car, or if I wanted to talk about sports, or a team that I wanted to join, I talked to my dad. And then they would come together and we would have this conversation. Sometimes what happens is they start with one parent and then the parents get together and have that conversation and then everybody comes back together again. And I think that actually works really well for most families because like you said, Ryan, it's that uncomfortableness. And for the little guys, sometimes they don't even care who they talk to. You know, I find that with the, you know, once they hit about like, I want to say about 8, then they kind of, you know, waffle back and forth. But before then, they're just like little open books. And if you can keep them as little opened books as they get older and make sure that they have that safe space where they're not afraid to say the good, the bad, and the ugly, then those conversations, while they're difficult, are not insurmountable.
You had mentioned earlier, you want parents to be on the same page,
Hmm.
right? So if parents have different communication or leadership styles, right, then that can lead to a whole other thing. How do you help parents get realigned and on the same page for that unity of the family?
Well, that's key. We've said that. And I think, again, it's that both parents have to have, I don't want to say equal say, but they need to both know that they are in, and I keep saying safe space to share, because if you don't feel safe in the conversation, then you're not going to say what you really need to say or think, you know, you're just not going to do it. So if that doesn't happen, those conversations are typically one-sided, and there's one parent that's going to make those decisions. And unfortunately, we can't fix or solve everything for everybody. None of us can.
We can't?
We
Dr.
can't.
Teri,
I'm
that's
sorry.
crazy.
I know.
I thought
Well,
we
you know,
could.
I left the Superwoman cape at the dry cleaner about 5 years ago, and I haven't picked it up since, and all hell has broken loose. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Go ahead,
Um,
Scott.
Dr. Rouse, could you expand on when you say, you need to feel safe?
Mhm.
Obviously, that can be a word that's different for everybody. How do you define, what is that safe space? What's that safe feeling in a conversation?
That safe space in the conversation means that I can say what is on my mind without um, being interrupted, without repercussions of what I'm saying, and knowing that what I'm saying is coming out of love, even though it might be hard for someone to hear.
We talk about that. Don't assume ill will, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Do you almost in those moments where you're bringing up something, let's say it's a difficult thing, you're making a point to have this conversation, do you find that it yields more positive results if whether it's the adult coming to the child or the child coming to the adult to initiate the conversation, do you find it yields more fruitful results if it's almost prefaced on the front end, like, hey, dad, I've got something I really want to talk to you about. It's really tricky. Do you have a minute? Like, do you find that setting the other party up to recognize that this is a challenging conversation, does that tend to be more fruitful?
Absolutely. And the other thing that is also helpful is to actually having a space in that house, apartment, wherever, office. I mean, this goes across the board. This is not just for kids and parents. This is, you're having a difficult conversation with a coworker. But the idea of having that safe place, okay, and prefacing it exactly, Ryan, by saying, this is kind of hard for me to talk about. I want to share this with you. I'm uncomfortable, but I know that you're going to hear me is important. Everybody is set up for success. The person listening knows that this person has got something that's going to be really hard to say. And the person who's got something hard to say knows that this person they've got their attention. Okay. And if they don't have the time for that at the moment, both people can say, okay, let's say dad, I says, I don't have time right now. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Can you give me an hour? Or can this wait until after dinner or something? But give a time so that the child knows that what they have to say is important. And you want to make sure that you have the time to give to them to answer whatever it is that they're asking.
So you have had a ton of experiences from being in Zimbabwe and under resource schools, being in London speaking, Paris. You've created pop-up libraries, which I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. So what's the one experience though, or one or two that's kind of pushed you outside that comfort zone and reshaped your view of courage and abundance and leadership in all these different areas?
Okay, give me a second. um, well, I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the courage is I've traveled most of these places: Zimbabwe, South Africa, Panama, India, by myself. I've gone alone, and I've met people at a conference, and then I've gone and done, all the traveling and whatnot by myself. Um, so that was kind of and actually I'll tell you why I did that, because I was told that I couldn't do. There was I was told by someone repeatedly that I was not capable, I could not do, I wasn't smart enough, and I believed that for a really long time. And then I married Dr. Fred, who Ryan knows. And even in the beginning part of that marriage, I still believed that. And so he really pushed me to go and do things by myself, to be independent, to not be afraid. Like like I said, I traveled to India by myself, and I keep thinking to myself, that was one of the craziest things I've ever done. I was safe, but you're on a plane for 18 hours. It's like, wow. Um, I think that the traveling then opened up it changed my worldview. I saw things very differently. I didn't take things for granted anymore. I didn't take wealth for granted. I didn't take housing. I didn't take education for granted. Um, I didn't take food for granted. Those things really, the travel changed my worldview about everything. And yeah, go
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say, you talked about that you had someone who said a lot of things to you, which we're firm believers and more language creates, and it
Hmm.
could create a lot of good,
Yep.
and by the same token, right, you had someone who was like, you can't, and limitation is created, possibility exists," and so you had sounds like a great relationship with Dr. Fred, who was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you got this. You can do this, and I'm gonna help you get outside that
Yeah.
comfort zone." So, how do you help someone find that person or people who will lovingly help them out of that comfort zone?
Well, first of all, I'm that person to start with. So when I'm talking to you and you're telling me, well, I've been told I'm your person. You're sharing that with me. You're comfortable enough with me. I will have your back to the moon and beyond until you find your own person, because y- I can't find that person for you. I can be your beginning support. I can be the one who says, I think that's wrong. I think you can. I believe in you. How can I help you believe in you? And once that happens, once I started to believe in myself, it was limitless. I've done things that I've never believed that I would ever do. I went white shark cage diving. I got into a cage and there was a white shark swimming around. Am I nuts? Yes, I am. But I did it, number one, because somebody told me, oh, you're not brave enough to do that. Oh, really? Yes, I am.
Have you always have you always had the "I'll show you" attitude?
I did until I got beat down for a long time. I
Okay.
was originally going to be a park ranger. I was not going to be a teacher. I was going to be a park ranger. And so once I realized that I really liked teaching, because I was not encouraged to be a teacher. There were a few teachers way back in my family, and teachers don't get paid a lot of money, and they struggle, and but it turned out okay. But I was going to be a park ranger, and I was like, I was fearless. I'd be the one that swam across the pond to get the cattails because it was there.
Got it.
It sounds like obviously you and I guess your husband's Fred, is that
Yes.
right? So, and you're both professionals.
Yes.
So you've done all this traveling, you've got your own interests, he's got his. It's something where it fills up a day.
Mhm.
What are 2 or 3 habits that you practice within your own family so that those lines of communication are there and available for everybody with such busy lives?
We always have dinner together. Well, at least we have dinner together when I'm not going out to dinner with somebody else. We always have dinner together. And in the morning, we always get up. He goes and does his thing and I go and do my thing. But then we meet back up for, a couple of minutes of chat before I'm off to do whatever. And we do that every single day and every single evening. And sometimes we eat dinner in front of the TV. We watch Jeopardy in our rocking chairs, like two old people. But but that's us, that's we also spend a lot of time together. Um, we have a little place down in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and we spend a lot of time there. And when we're there, we'll just sit out on the porch and watch the water. It's just together.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Sounds like a great way. Well, there's going to be one final question. Just
Sure.
a few quick questions. Kind of first thing that comes to your mind. What's the one book that's had a lasting impact on how you think about people or abundance?
Oh wow. Um, the one thing. So I think that's what it's called. The one thing where you concentrate on doing just one thing at a time, because when you do that, you give whatever that thing is or that person your full attention. And when you can accomplish that, you can accomplish so much more.
Okay. What's one behavior trend that worries you and also gives you hope right now?
Screen time, kids on the screens. Um, if we can get them to not do TikTok and to do things that are appropriate, like reading a really good book or watching a really good documentary or creating something beautiful, I'm okay with screen time. But I don't like, how many kids are doing things like those challenges. They scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, it is I don't want to say a time waster, but
Mm.
yeah, we could talk for a minute about that. If um if you could gift every parent or business owner one lesson from your real peaceful parenting work, what would it be?
Creating connection.
Okay. Which I love that because again, we believe that we were meant to live in community and be
Mhm.
there for one another. So yeah, I love that. When people hear the name Dr. Teri Rouse years from now, what's the one word or phrase you hope that people will remember?
Um, I was going to say funny, but no, that's not. I would like them. I would like them to one word. There's so many words. Resilient.
Okay. Love that. Love that. And finally, which you've been very generous with your time, if you can leave our audience with one powerful question to ask themselves, so we can all ask ourselves this week about their family legacy, what would it be, and what small step should people take right away?
I would say that legacy, and this kind of goes back, but legacy is different things to different families. So for some families, legacy is more financial. For some, it's more educational. Um, I would say to families that creating your connections with each other and creating time, quality time with each other is absolutely the most important thing to do because you don't know how long people are going to be here with you.
Yeah, the veil between life and death is very thin,
Yes, it is.
very thin.
Dr. Terry, I really do appreciate you carving time out of your busy schedule. And I know you had mentioned a moment ago being kind of back into the mush, as you called it, back in the living room as a professionist, making some change for folks. I know you've got clients to serve and whatnot, so we'll certainly let you get back to doing that. But thank you again for your time today, your expertise, and of course, we wish you all the best as you continue to make a difference for these families out here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. Terry. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Alrighty, folks. Well, there you have it. Dr. Teri Rouse, early and behavior interventionist. Really a lot of great stuff covered in today's episode. Matt, why don't you bat lead off here for us? What were some of your big takeaways?
There's there's a resource available to us all, right? Whatever the thing is, we just need to have the courage to step forward and say, I need some help, right? Whether it's in this instance, right, with your kids and your family or whatever the thing is, know that there are people like Dr. Teri Rouse out there who can have a significant impact in your life and in your family's life if you're willing to say, hey, we have an issue here, a problem, a situation, whatever term you want to come to, and then be willing to say, okay, I am open to learning from someone who can, because we always say all the time, is staying the same an option? And if it's not, then hey, what's available to us, and having someone like Dr. Rouse out there, right, and to help with your family, right? That's so important.
I couldn't agree more. It's tough to acknowledge when you've got an issue, especially when it's one within your family. It's probably the thing you hold most precious, right? So to call attention to something that's a first. I don't even want to say it's first step. That's a big hurdle to just call a spade there. But then to take that action step, it's amazing. I Terry had mentioned I know her personally from years past. She's a great individual who has worked her magic, to say the least, on a lot of struggling families out there, regardless of whatever the circumstance they were up against. And but it took that first step, like you mentioned, Matt. But
We all want to have the image of we all have it together, right? Well, really, if you peel back the curtain in all families, we talk about this all the time. There's some level of dysfunction, right? Is it just a little bit and we can get along and we can actually have holiday meals together or get around Sunday dinner or whatever? Or are we going to go on Jerry Springer, Dr. Phil, right? Where are we on that, spectrum of family dynamics? But it's like, okay, and not only where are you, but where do you want to be? And are you willing to have those authentic conversations, right, with family members or, close loved ones that you're like, hey, let's figure this out, and let's, for lack of a better term, make things better.
Right. And it's always worth it to do that, to take that extra effort. But Scott, what about you? What were some of your big takeaways?
Just honesty and open dialogue. It's, with all of her background, I have sort of a similar, background. I had some counseling and I worked with some at-risk kids and disadvantaged families and things like that. And, I keep thinking about how difficult it is, throw in all of the social media, throw in, the stressors of today and everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be relevant. And we have all these tools now available, these technologies where we sometimes go to find that love and find that affirmation and things from places that don't actually give it very well. And I think that being able to have obviously a family that you can talk to, knowing that families are so busy these days, oftentimes two professionals in a family. It, again, like Matt said, it's good to know that there are people out there who genuinely care when they get into a professional relationship, whether it's counseling or otherwise. I mean, anybody who's, promoting the idea of listening to understand versus listening to reply. I think that's the thing I keep trying to tell my kids is it's so easy to just have somebody talk to you and instantly want to say what's on your mind next and never really having internalized what the other person said. And so I think this is what she's about. She's about having honest discussion within a family. Sometimes it's going to be about financial. Sometimes it's going to be about the family business. Sometimes it's going to be about whatever, a direction where somebody's heading in the wrong direction, and there needs to be some honest discussion about it. So yeah, I mean, just all of it. It's life, life can be difficult, and we find ourselves oftentimes talking about something in a family discussion about money. There's so many other things that come out, and where there's an opportunity to talk more about it. And so it just gives me more, when I hear her talk, it affirms how I feel about, family dynamics and how to talk about money and how to talk about strengthening the family.
What about you, Ryan? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, as I sit here in life, beginning a family of my own, I'm obviously a sponge of information and insight from folks like Dr. Terry. A big one is quality time. I think I took away from her conversation, and because when you have the time that you spend with your children, you are naturally going to forge a deeper relationship, and then therefore a deeper relationship lends itself to being able to navigate trickier conversations together. Because let's face it, if you're not this warm sense of comfort from your child looking at you, those tricky conversations are going to feel maybe not insurmountable, but they're going to feel way more difficult than they would be if they were going to somebody that they're very close with, very comfortable with. So, but then to that end, you think about, Scott, your point, oftentimes we've got a ton of families here in our country where you've got the matriarch and patriarch are both working, and that creates the stressor of being able to get in that quality time. But I love that Terry tied it back to something that we all do on a regular basis. It's something we have to do together. Well, not together, but we should do together, and that's eat dinner. She mentioned how she and Dr. Fred sit down each night, and that's like their constant. And I love that because we all have to eat. We all have to make sure that we have that, build the nourishment. So why not make that a fixed point in your day to be able to welcome in that quality time? So that was a big takeaway for me was, even if you're a busy person, you still got to eat dinner at the end of the day. So make sure that you use that time wisely, have fun with it, make it worthwhile, make it impactful. But don't make an excuse for, oh, I'm just so busy. This was just a busy week, or this was just a busy month, because, the less time you spend, the harder it's going to be down the road when you're tackling some of the even bigger issues, I think, that might pop up.
Yeah. It's like you said, be purposeful and intentional.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, we, while while we didn't dive too deeply into the wealth component that it can exist within family dynamics today, obviously we've spoken about that on this podcast before. And, our listeners have a library of content that they can go back to listen to some of those more specific conversations. But for anybody out there where, let's say, something struck a nerve with them today, maybe even specifically related to the money conversation, and they could benefit from opening up a dialogue with you guys, talking about a specific strategy or their future, college, any of the the realm of possibility when it comes to kids and family and wealth. What would be the best way somebody could reach out to you guys and just start that conversation?
Yep. First way is go to the website, morrisonnordman.com, two N's on the end of my last name, and you can click there and schedule a phone call, or call the office, 517-333-7967. We'll ask you some questions and see how we can help.
I love it. Well, fellas, I know you got clients to serve, so we'll let you get back to doing that. But I appreciate the time today, and we'll see you back here on the next one.
All right. See you, Ryan. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
All right, thanks, fellas. And hey, folks, we want to take a final moment, as we always do, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two, make sure you hit the subscribe button on any of the podcasting platforms that you checked us out on today, so that you don't miss out on future conversations like these, where we bring on some really unique experts from so many walks of life and ultimately try to provide value to you and yours. But look, for Scott and Matt, and of course, Dr. Teri, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate each and every one of you being with us today on Path to Abundant Living.